Good afternoon and welcome back for another Q&A session. So today we're going to go through the following. So we're going to go through a quick bit of info on the t-shirt competition that I'm going to run again this week and announce the winner of last week's t-shirt competition. Another quick announcement about the Q&A sessions and how they're going to look moving forwards. And then the questions that I've had in this week, either in the clinic or from people emailing in, is can strength training help my mental health? How should I monitor my progress? And then how do I start again after my holiday? And then any questions that you might have if you are watching this live. So if you are watching this live, then please do use the chat feature and you can ask any questions that you might have about starting strength training as an older adult, and I will do my best to answer that. If you are watching this as a recording after the fact or later this afternoon or in the week, then please do still use the comments feature to ask your question, and I will come back to that next week on the Q&A session next week at 12 o'clock. So last week I ran a competition on how to win a free Never Taught to Lift t-shirt, and I'm going to run the same competition this week. So all you need to do is comment the word t-shirt in the chat or in the comments underneath the video, and if you do that before the end of Friday, so what's the date, 24th today, so the end of Friday 26th at midnight, and then at the weekend I will do a draw and announce the winner. And then just to show that the draw wasn't rigged in any way, this is just a quick showing how I did the draw. So this was on last week, so I've not managed to actually get in touch with her yet, so this is just to show you who won. So I feel a little bit sorry for Abby's here because it was so close, but it just span over into Maggie. So Maggie is the winner. So I know you often watch these lives. If you are watching, then let me know. And if you just send me an email, Maggie, and it's chris@nevertooldtolift.com, I will let you know how you can actually kind of get your t-shirt there. But yeah, so just comment t-shirt again underneath this video before the end of Friday and you'll be entered in to win it again this week. And whilst you're there, if you just click like the thumbs up video, and if you're not already subscribed to the Never Taught to Lift YouTube channel, then do just take the opportunity to click in the bottom right hand corner to subscribe. And then in terms of the announcement about the Q&A sessions going forward, it's getting a little bit busy over the next couple of months, firstly with school holidays and a few Wednesdays that I'm going to be looking after my son on the Wednesdays, which then makes it tricky to try and do these. Equally, I've got a couple of conference talks coming up that I need to prepare for, so I've decided to change it for the short term from weekly Q&A sessions to monthly Q&A sessions. So it's going to be the last Wednesday of every month. So next Wednesday is the 31st, so it's going to be on next Wednesday at 12 o'clock. And then I think it's the 28th of August will be the next one, and then definitely into September, possibly onwards, it will stay monthly for a few months, and then my plan will be turn it back into weekly after that. And I'll do a little announcement by email, but just to let you know in advance that they will be changing to monthly rather than weekly. But yeah, let's get straight into the first question that kind of came up, and this was with the group call that I do with anyone who's part of my online course Stronger for Life. We have a weekly group call every week for anyone who wants us to turn up, and it kind of took a little interesting tangent today just about mental health and how strength training can help mental health. So I just wanted to go through a few bits on that because it might be useful for and interesting for some people to hear. So you may have well heard me talk before about the fact that a decrease in muscle strength, that process of sarcopenia as you get older, is often associated with certain things such as respiratory disease, heart disease, diabetes, etc. But dementia and Alzheimer's are also covered in there. So we can kind of take from that by adding strength training in, hopefully we'll find that there's a lesser chance of it. It's not kind of a direct correlation that you can firmly say those who do strength training aren't going to get dementia and those who do aren't. But there is a link that is shown that the muscle strength is strongly associated with incidence of dementia or not. So that's a big part there. But then I also wanted to look, and I've not really mentioned it before, in terms of depression and anxiety. So I found a couple of papers. So this first one talks about muscle strength and incidence of depression and anxiety, findings from the UK Biobank prospective cohort study. And they looked at grip strength and its association with depression. And what they found was hand grip strength was inversely associated with incidence of depression and anxiety. So what that means is, as the hand grip strength came up, and this was measured with a hand strength or hand grip dynamometer, which I covered a few weeks ago, but you can get relatively inexpensive for sort of £20 or so on Amazon, and it's just something you kind of have your arm at 90 degrees, you squeeze the device, and it gives you a reading in either pounds or kilograms of how much strength is there. So often it's a little good test to go through, because you can then find normative values where you can compare your age range in your dominant and non-dominant hands to see whether you're kind of within normal or average, above average or below average. And if you're below average, it kind of gives you a bit of an idea that actually that's something you do need to work on, because it can have it'd be associated with many things, but here they talked about its association with incidence of depression. So yeah, as the hand grip strength went up, the incidence of depression and anxiety went down. So again, those with weaker hand grip strength had a higher incidence of depression and anxiety. So that's something to bear in mind there that was interesting. And then this next one looked at the association between muscle strength and depression in a cohort of young adults. So it is younger adults rather than older adults, but I imagine that it's going to be a similar pattern throughout. And they looked at the strength of quad strength, so quadricep strength, that muscle at the front of your thigh, and they also looked at hamstring strength. So they measured the sort of knee extension, which is the quad strength, and then the knee flexion, the hamstring strength, on a bit of a more fancy kit called a sort of isokinetic machine or Bidex, which obviously you can't do at home, but so you can't kind of test it yourself, but it definitely kind of holds up here, because if we look at the results and look at the bit that I highlighted, which I'll read out now, it's specifically females with low muscle strength had 3.46 times higher odds of experiencing depression compared to females with a high muscle strength. Similarly, males with low muscle strength had 2.51 times higher odds of depression compared to males with high knee muscle strength. So again, fascinating results there in terms of how much higher the incidence was in those with low, and I couldn't quite find an obvious marker of what they considered low strength and what was considered high strength, because the units that the isokinetic machine measure in isn't sort of necessarily applicable to how much you could say do on a knee extension machine to know if you're strong or weak for your age. But I think the big take home is, if we can increase our muscle strength, there's a good chance we're going to reduce our likelihood of getting depression or anxiety. What's difficult to say is the way I worded the question there: can strength training help mental health? If you're already struggling with anxiety and depression, then I didn't sort of see necessarily the data there that's going to show it's definitely going to help it. But it seems to make sense, because there's certain things that you could kind of link with, as you feel stronger, you're taking positive steps, positive actions, and you then feel you're capable of doing more, which then could well help the depression and anxiety you feel. You could find that actually chronic pain you might be suffering from is feeding into your anxiety and depression, and we know that increased muscle strength can help reduce those symptoms of chronic pain, and less pain means the ability to do more, so that again could make you feel more positive. There's so many theories on why increased muscle strength could have those effects in reducing the incidence. So I won't go too much into that because you're never going to prove exactly the mechanisms of it. But the big take home is whether it's depression, anxiety, dementia, Alzheimer's, not just being physically active, but building muscle strength is likely to have a positive impact on that. So if that is something you do struggle with and you haven't taken any steps yet to get started with strengthening, then it's something then I definitely consider and work into. Good. Next question was, how should I monitor the progress of my strength workouts, or any workouts in general? And again, anyone who's watched any of these, you'll know that I'm a big advocate for documenting your workouts as you go through. Main reason is that I tend to say that is because if you're doing, I'd suggest normally 2 alternating workouts that you work on each week. So you do maybe 1 at the start of the week, 1 towards the end of the week, or you might be doing 3 a week and you can just keep alternating through it. You might have 4 or 5 exercises in there, and then you might be doing 2 or 3 sets of each exercise. And if you then have to try and remember exactly what weight you used and how you felt doing it at the end of the workout when you come back to it next time, it can be quite difficult. So actually writing it down, and you can then flick back when you come to do that workout again, you can flick back to what you did last time, you can see what weight you use, so you can go straight in at that weight, or maybe do a warm-up set first and then go into that weight, and you're not having to mess around trial and error to get back to what the right weight is. You're a lot more efficient. You don't waste sets by kind of working back up to it. You can just go with that. So it really does help guide your future weeks and make sure you're going to be efficient with those. But the other part of it is it's really positive and motivating to be able to look back at what you did maybe a month ago and see how you're progressing. So yeah, say today you did squats with 40 kilograms on your back, and you at the end of the 3rd set you felt like you could have done 5 or 6 more. You might look back a month ago and see that you were using 30 kilograms and you were struggling to finish the 3rd set. Say you were aiming for 12 reps, you might have only managed 10 because it was so difficult. We forget what it was like and what weights we were using and how we felt. So sometimes then looking back from a month ago or a bit longer ago, and to see that progress of adding 10 kilos on and having reps in reserve, those how many more could I have done, that's really motivating to see the progress you've made, and that's going to help motivate you for future weeks. And then you'd know actually from that, today if I'd written down 40 kilograms on my back, on a back squat, and at the end of the 3rd set I had 5 reps in reserve, I'll know then when I look back and I do the workout the next week that because I had 5 reps in reserve, 40 kilograms probably isn't enough to really challenge me. I now need to be maybe using 42.5 or 45 kilos. And again, I'm not wasting time remembering that 40 was easy. When I look back next, I know that actually I can go straight in at higher than that. So yeah, that's kind of the importance of documenting your workouts. I thought I'd just bring in, for anyone who's seen my free ebook, you might recognise this as a workout template that I tend to put, that I've got in there. And I'd sort of zoom into the exercise bit there. So on the column on the left hand side, I've got the list of where I'm going to put my list of exercises. You can kind of ignore the pairing system I use for the moment because it's not so relevant for this. But yeah, you just generally want somewhere where you're going to write the exercise you're doing down. Then next, we're going to then write down the number of repetitions that you were aiming for that week. So if you're just getting started, it might be 15 repetitions. Then in the next column, or the next 3 columns, those white ones, we're then going to put in the load that you used. So I put load because if you're doing a squat, it might be the weight. If you're using resistance band for your trunk rotations or your seated rows. It could be that you write down the colour of the band that you use. So they're kind of the important ones. Is you want the date that you're doing the workout on, so that you know how long if you're looking back over time to see how well you've progressed, how far long ago it was. You want the exercises, the number of repetitions, and then the load that you're going to use. And you notice that I've then put on the right hand side there the note section, and that's underutilized a lot with a lot of people. So I've already mentioned there, a big one I always put in is reps in reserve. How many more repetitions do I feel like I could have done at the end of the third set? I mean, you could write it for every set, but the end of the third set is generally the most important. I often write in what time of day I did the workout. I might put in, did I sleep particularly well the night before? Is there anything else sort of going on at the moment? Or did I do a run last night that could then account for why my legs feel a bit heavy today? The more information you put in the notes, the more the easier it's going to be to kind of identify patterns of when you might not feel great and why a workout was difficult versus another one that felt brilliant. I know I've had some females in that have talked about there's certain times of their cycle where things just feel difficult, whether it's a run, whether it's a training session. And again, if you're writing that down, you can start to swap that pattern. So if you know you're in that time of your cycle, you can then actually just be prepared and actually reduce maybe the weights down slightly on the week that you think you're going to struggle, and then know you're going to push up again from there. But yeah, documenting your workouts, very important. Again, your workout template could look, or your way of documenting could look like anything really. It could just be notes on a scrap of paper, but they're kind of the things you want to cover. So exercise name, number of reps, weight, and then things like reps in reserve and how you're feeling, and anything that might account for why things are a little bit more difficult. There are certain apps out there, if you're not, because for me I tend to be more pen and paper. I like to leave my phone in the locker when I go to the gym, and I like to just write things down on pen and paper and not then find I'm being distracted by my phone. But a lot of people like using apps. I haven't never used them. I don't really know any to be able to kind of recommend. So if you do have any recommendation on apps, then do let me know in the comments. But yeah, anything where you can document it and then review it at a later date is a good way of doing it. So if anyone is interested in the ebook and then getting access to that workout template there, it's completely free. So just go to nevertooalterlift.com/start-here, and then you'll get the goal plan and workout template, as well as a book which is going to help guide you through putting together a workout program, and then picking your exercises and adapting it around your needs. If you would rather have a paperback version of that and you don't like reading on the screen, then it is available as a paperback on Amazon. Just search Never Too Old to Lift on Amazon, you'll find that there. But I've got one more question or kind of talking point that I wanted to go over. So if you are watching live and you've got any questions, then please do use the chat feature to ask those questions. And again, if you are watching the recording, then do use the comments. And I'll answer that in a future week. Where are we? So here we go. I had a break from training following my holiday. Any advice on how to go about my first workout back? So this will get again someone who was on the group call this morning from my course Stronger for Life. They were away last week. And despite best intentions, and they'd taken a resistance band with them and had planned to do a workout, they ended up not doing it. It was quite an active holiday anyway. They walked an average of 10k each day, and didn't do any workouts, which again, absolutely fine. If you are going away, don't put any pressure on yourself to do workouts if you don't want to. That's what holidays are for. Some of you might find that actually it's quite nice to have a bit extra time, and if the the hotel's got a gym, then actually having time to do a longer workout without the time constraints, and know that you can go and sit by the pool afterwards and treat yourself, that might be what you like to do on holiday, which is then great. Do it. if you want to go on holiday to get away from it all and away from your weekly routine, then don't put any pressure on it. It's fine to have a week or two off when you are on holiday. But the point of the discussion here was more to do what you do when you first go back. So it partly depends on how long your holiday was. The longer the holiday, the more you're going to need to kind of take note of this. The shorter the holiday, you might get away with not worrying about this quite so much. But the mistake I see a lot of people make is they tend to feel like they need to make up for missed time for having not done anything last week, and they feel like they end up pushing too hard on that first workout back because they feel like they're kind of fitting almost two workouts into one, and they up the weight and do more than they've lifted before they went on holiday. And the problem is, whilst you're on holiday and not doing so much and being less active, you might find that your body deconditions ever so slightly, and it's now not able to tolerate the weight you were lifting before. Plus, having not done it before and potentially feeling a bit sluggish from holiday, you might find that you're just not moving as quickly and everything just feels more difficult anyway. And you could end up causing yourself a small injury or just an irritation or something that means you then need a couple of weeks to let it settle before you can really get back into it. So my advice, and what this person had already done without needing to speak to me first, she said that she just went back in, she reduced the weight of all her exercises by about 10% and just went back in, and she did feel sluggish from having been on holiday and just going back into it. I think she got back on the Sunday and she did the first workout back on the Monday, and actually at the end of it she felt much better for it, but she felt positive rather than negative because she hasn't caused herself an injury or anything like that. So next, she's going to do her other workout this week, and then next week is where she's going to get back to her original weight that she was doing before, and then she's going to push forward with the weight from there. So whereas some people push forward with the weight straight away, straight after the holiday, and that's where the injury occurs, actually, as well as a holiday, so you got the week off, you might then have a week at slightly less weight, a week back at the weight you were using, and then you up the weight. So sometimes a holiday does mean a bit of a 3-week gap in the progressions you were making, but that's absolutely fine. And that's I'd much rather that than you have to take another 2 or 3 or 4 weeks off with a slight injury and then find that actually you're starting back at a lower level to then build back up again. So if you are about to go on holiday, firstly, have a great time, but equally don't feel the pressure to do a workout if you don't want to. If you do, great, that's brilliant. But when you do come back, just take it a little bit easy on that first session or two back and then build it from there. So again, that is all the questions that I had prepared. So if you do have any questions for me, this is your last chance, whilst I just go back over a few things there. So again, if you do want a chance to win one of the Never Told to Lift t-shirts, just comment below with the word t-shirt, whether that's in the chat or the comments. And if you do that before the end of Friday the 26th, then you'll be entered into the free draw, which I'll do at the weekend. If you are interested in that ebook, again, nevertoldtolift.com/start-here. If you want that on Amazon, just search Never Told to Lift on Amazon. And if you do want the more interactive way of going through that content and having access to me on the weekly group Zoom calls, then it's nevertoldtolift.com/course, and you'll find it more information on the course there. But for now, if you I think that's everything. So like I said, we are going to move to monthly calls or monthly live streams, but next week will be on, and then it will be the last Wednesday of every month from there. If you have found any value in any of the topics I've talked about, then appreciate it if you just give the thumbs up button a click, and again, just make sure you are subscribed to Never Told to Lift, and so you'll then be informed when those live calls are coming up. But for the time being, have a great week, and I'll be back at 12 o'clock next Wednesday. That's the 31st of July.